Both Trepanier and Wagner have gone back-to-back on wins so far this season. 2 wildcards tonight could prevent either of them from getting a repeat. Lime Rock's bullring-type nature almost always causes unpredictability, and the unfamiliarity of the Hungaroring might allow someone to snipe a victory. We'll see if either is the case as we get ready to watch round 3 of the PRL GT Amateur Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Starting off with Lime Rock, the Ferrari Challenge drivers won't have much space to maneuver. Let's head to our track guide to find out more about this historic little track. Welcome to Lime Rock Park. Located in the northwest corner of Connecticut, this unassuming little track has garnered a surprisingly passionate following. Its unique aspects create a circuit not only full of character, but consistently challenging even to modern race cars. While it has 4 different possible layouts, on the classic version, only 7 corners are split along a 1.5-mile track, with just a single one of them turning left. Though simple in appearance, most drivers will tell you that trying to be fast here is anything but. The run down the front stretch into Big Bend offers pretty much the only viable passing spot, but it's a double apex right-hander which lures drivers into taking it too fast. The uphill is also scary quick considering its lack of runoff and can sometimes cause cars to get airborne over its crest. Then, on the opposite end, the downhill sends cars diving into a quick sweeper, which requires a good exit speed in order to defend or attack back into the first corner. Modern racing mostly uses the more recently built chicanes, especially at the uphill. But one of the most unusual facts about this track is that the races are never held on Sunday. Due to a legal agreement with a nearby church, events must take place on Fridays and Saturdays. The confines around this place are tight, the passing opportunities are few, and mistakes are usually punished with race-ending damage. With most other road courses now being built with upwards of 3 and 4 miles in length, this track stands out. But in an age of multi-million-dollar facilities and flashy buildings, this quaint small circuit manages to keep fans coming back with its intimate and grassroots setting. Well, DJ, we've raced this track many a times ourselves. The drivers, I'm sure, have as well. But it's going to be a lot of cars on a tiny little circuit.
It certainly is, Joe, and especially considering we are running with the optional uphill chicane, that is going to be a big funnel point for these drivers. So they're going to have to be very careful around there. As always does seem to be the case, I think the best overtaking opportunity will be probably going down into Big Bend with a little bit of an opportunity to fight back into the S's. But really and truly, this is such a quick, fast track. There's not a lot of massive, heavy braking zones where you can get too wide. I think this is really going to be a qualifying important race. Drivers are going to want to be as far forward as they can because, as you alluded to in the intro, there's definitely some chances around here for drivers to fall afoul of the track. Very easy to step a tire over into the grass and cause a big kerfluffle.
Indeed, there's few places to hide at this circuit. Before we get to the racing, we want to remind you that our broadcast is brought to you by ASR. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
Today's broadcast is also brought to you by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out today at thebuttkicker.com.
Today's event is also brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
And finally, the PRL GT AM series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. So round 3 here in the Ferrari Challenge. The fixed series sees Jonathan Wager up at the top with his 2 wins, but it's only by 6 points over Eric Luke, who's been following him home in both rounds. We'll see if he can do something special here today. John Stetzel and Beaufil, they're a little bit farther back with Baron Glover not too far behind the pair of them. In the Teams Championship, DJ, how's that one stacking up?
Well, Apex Button Box has a narrow advantage over Eagle Vision Racing by only 7 points, but from there on back, it is a wide disparity, but a good battle for third nonetheless, with Improper Racing and Apex Eagle Box Vision Racing tied for that third place spot. Car Ramrod about 20 points or so back from then. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for some of those teams to get up to first place, but certainly some good battles on our hands.
Indeed. And, well, those battles are going to take place over a 35-minute event here. It's a fixed setup series, as we mentioned, and they have some penalties that they can accrue if they go off too much. 13 incidents will give them a drive-through, 17 a disqualification. And the big one that we're going to be watching out for here is the bonus points, because 3 of them are on offer for fastest lap pole or 3 incidents or less. I do want to correct myself. Eric Luke is actually not here today. He did tell us that previously. So he will not be able to try and challenge Jonathan Wager, who's actually got the provisional pole by a whopping half a second over Rafael Beaufil, which is almost incredible on a track this short.
Exactly, Joe, and he was setting those same times during practice, so that is not an anomalous lap there for Wager. I think he's going to be very, very tricky to beat, but from there on back, it is an incredibly tight battle with second place of Beaufil all the way down to 21st of Barry Cochran, separated by only a second.
So we watch on board the 5th place driver Setnay here down and around diving turn to try and see if he can go quicker than the 50.6 he had last time across the line. It is going to be 1/10 quicker, 50.5. That'll get him onto the second row. Now, don't forget, this isn't the only racing that we're going to be watching tonight. Stick around after this one because the PRL GT3 AM series is coming up at the Hungaroring. We got to see the GT3 pros last night there. I can tell you from what we witnessed, you do not want to miss that race. It's going to be a fun one.
No, it's not. Strategy and on-track action playing a big part of that race. But before we get to that, we've got to keep focused here on Lime Rock. This is third place Bo Phil as he comes around as Ficadenti was able to pip him to that second place position. I don't think this is going to be quick enough for Rafael. Indeed, it is not, and that is his last lap out there. So that is the best that Rafael will be able to do is starting off in third place.
Yeah, we have to remember they only get 4 laps here to try and set their quickest time as the car is all over the place and into the barriers there for 22nd place driver Charles Sumner. Blake Ziti in 15th only has 1 lap counted of his 4, and he is now done. So 15th will be all he sees at best. So we now switch over to Joe McCauley.
And McCauley down in 25th as you saw him thread his way through that very tricky uphill chicane section. Those big sausage curves on the inside of the corners. Even in these Ferraris where there tends to be a little bit of a stiffer and more sturdy suspension, they can cause a big disturbance. Looks like McCauley is able to go faster there. That lap's going to count. That'll bump him up 2 spots into 23rd.
And I think, yeah, that is our last driver able to set a time. Now, we do have Robert Rund, Matthew Aubrey, and Brian Hoskins still not out there on track, but the laps are so short, they actually could jump out and do it almost oval style here, where they wait for the last second to try and set their lap times. But otherwise, everybody that you see on the circuit right now are basically just running some practice laps here today. So that gives us a chance to go through the weather here as we take a look at the temperature on the circuit, and it is currently 93 Fahrenheit with very, very little wind. So a little bit hot, but nothing outrageous.
No, and I think what that'll mean is that tires will be able to come up to temperature a little bit quicker. That 62% humidity, that's going to come into play. That means that there's a little bit more denseness to the air, and so they'll be able to take a little bit more of the downforce that these Ferraris offer up. That may also mean that we see some better passing on this circuit, so it could lead to good things all the way around.
Absolutely. Joe McCauley getting in as much practice as he can get. Let's hope that this will pay dividends for him, that he could maybe move up from that 23rd position. I've also been seeing a few cars practicing their pit in. They can't exactly practice the pit out all that much out here because really the worry about that one is the fact that you get dumped into the traffic. But I've seen a few times at this track, DJ, where drivers who wanted to pit in didn't really get the memo out to others very well and found themselves run over in that last turn.
Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky. I expect there to be a decent amount of communication on the radio as that happens. We watch Ficadenti here just going out and running some more of those practice laps as well, trying to see if he can maybe get some good rhythm into the track. But that's one of the things about Lime Rock. It's such a narrow track that you've really got to make everything absolutely apparent before you commit to a move or commit to the pit lane, or it could end in disaster, Joe.
Indeed. I know there was talks a couple years ago about them potentially changing that pit entry, and that's part of what took iRacing so long about getting this update is they were trying to hold out to make sure that, well, let's make sure that we make the chicane first, to make sure that this track wouldn't change for the dreaded iRacing curse, as a lot of the members have come to dub it, where a track changes after the scan very shortly usually. And it is certainly, I don't know how really much people actually believe it, but it certainly seems to happen frequently enough that it can be a little frustrating, I'm sure, just as much for the devs as it is for the drivers.
Oh, for sure. And thankfully for a lot of the drivers here, Lime Rock has not changed, as you mentioned, but you continue to watch your McCauley going around. I really got to say, Joe, with these Ferraris, I had a chance to go out here and do some testing earlier today. It's a blast to drive these things around here. The Ferrari, it's a very good all-around car. It feels really great at a tiny little circuit like this. And when you've got the multiple other drivers out on track that we're going to have, could get a little bit dicey, but it's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch.
Well, maybe it'll give us someone that can finally bring the fight to the 47 of Jonathan Wager. Ficadenti is our closest, but he's still, as we said, about half a second behind, which actually brings us to our grid now that the clock has ticked down to 0 in the warm-up, or the qualifying rather. And there you see Wager on the top spot with Ficadenti just beside him. Beaufil will start from 3rd as Wildridge starts in P4. Setane Kara will be P5. Oliver Hartley is 6th, and Baird Glover in 7th. And on the outside of that row, Leif Hellberg starts 8th, Randy Gross is 9th, and then rounding out row 5, it is Owen McLaughlin.
In 11th, it is Mark Feil, followed by Spencer Semkowicz to his outside. Jordan Walker will start off 13th, followed by Yannick Belleville, in 14th. Blake Ziti is lining up 15th, followed by Peter Lee with Pim Luth in 17th and Patrick Cowgill in 18th. And then the last row of the top 20 will be Alec Bergstrom and Eric Evans.
Neil Alexander will start 21st, followed by Charles Sumner in P22. You've got Joe McCauley in the 23rd spot. Barry Cochran starts 24th, and the last 2 to set times were Lawson Christie and David A. Bear. From there on down, drivers that are gridding up according to their iRating here, and that would be Aubrey, Hoskins, Carmody, and Roon. So maybe starting from the back just to try and avoid some of the trouble that could potentially erupt here at the start. We got some time on the pace lap, and with a couple of onboard views today, let's see if we're ready to show off a couple of our drivers here. Oh, and it looks like our onboards are not in this race, excuse me. We've got them in the GT3M, so we'll have to wait to get to see those here in a bit. In the meantime, just about got everybody here on the front stretch, the Sam Posey straight next to the creek, getting ready to go racing for 35 minutes around the blender that is Lime Rock Park.
Yeah, it is going to be fast and furious, Joe, and I think these drivers are going to have to be very, very careful, specifically into Big Bend on that first lap. It's a relatively early turn off for the pace car here, so control will go over to Jonathan Wager. Wouldn't be surprised to see him go early, try to put a little bit of a gap on him and the rest of the field to try to avoid any incident that may fall behind and send some cars ping-ponging off into him.
All right, now taking off behind the Porsche pace car. So as we watch them head into Big Bend, you can see all these beautifully painted machines who is racing in a new series. We've mentioned it in the first race of the season. Haven't really harped on that a whole lot last round, but this is a series to basically give up-and-coming drivers a place to go here, as the GT3s are so popular in the Precision Racing League. They've got this one, they've got the GT3Ms, which is your next step up, and then they have the GT3 Pros, which we covered last night, which are the big boys here in these cars. But for this one, it is strictly the Ferraris. There's no other makes that are available. This is just to get their feet wet and try to get up to speed.
Yeah, and it's a good sort of stepping stone that the PRL has implemented to try to give as many drivers as possible a way to get into the series. And we've seen all of the numbers that have come out there as we watch here, headed towards West Bend and around into downhill, with the rest of the field catching up here with Wager. It's probably going to be what he wants. He wants a big spread out field, not a whole lot coming up behind him.
Yeah, especially with everybody going to be trying to get close here into Big Bend on the first lap, hoping to get that track position, which is oh so valuable here at Lime Rock Park. There goes the Porsche pace car. Wager is off like a shot. Early start, and the green flag is out. The 47 has a good jump. A little bit of a look to the inside from Beaufil on Ficadenti, but he's going to break a little early. Someone's sending it down the inside. I think that was Glover, and he doesn't make the pass on that one. Oh, but he does get into the side of someone. That is, I can't quite tell who that is in the black Ferrari. Just went off.
That's Kara. That's Kara, Joe.
Oh, no. Other than that, I think we managed to get away without any big incidents in the first lap. So great job to everybody through Big Bend. But now they got to narrow up into the chicane for the first time, where it's definitely got to be single file. Someone's cutting the chicane, though. This one is Hartley.
Yeah, and Harley's going to get a big slowdown. We've had a little bit of contact there in the back with Owen McLaughlin and Spencer Semkowicz, who has spun around as they tried to make the mistake of going too wide through the chicane. That is Semkowicz that is just sitting there waiting for everything to go by. But back up front, oh, that's another car off into the grass on the exit of the diving turn.
Baron Glover, and then side by side here on your screen, that's Bo Phil having another shot at things. Walt Wildridge to his outside coming through Big Bend. Didn't think there was enough grip there, and Paul has to back out of it.
Yeah, and there may be a little bit of grip as the race goes along, that outside lane will grip up. It is slightly on camber, so you can chuck it around the outside, but very hard to get done early on here. Tires should be about up to temperature here at this point, but I would have waited a little bit longer if I was Wildridge there to try to make that move.
So once again, everybody just weave their way through the chicane as we ride on board with the 4th place. Wildridge should still be feeling a little bit of that slipstream along the front stretch and be able to reel Bo Phil back in, but it certainly isn't close enough to try and attack as we jump back now to the battle for 12th place.
Yeah, and this is the battle right now with Bergstrom closing in on Ziti right now. Ziti, I thought he was going to get a really good run out of the corner, but not able to make it work. And Bergstrom trying to close in under braking, not able to get it going down into the Big Bend this time, but that race continues on. We ride on board with Joe McCauley, though. He is back in 16th.
That's Peter Lee just in front of him for 15th position. He's also got a friend behind him in the form of Neil Alexander. We watch from the gearbox, poor exit, coming onto the no-name straight. And as much as McCauley wants it, oh, maybe he really does want it. He tries to get to the inside, but has to back out of it. I thought he was actually going to try and make that pass stick.
I thought he was too, but had to back out of it a little bit. So there they go, spreading out a little bit as this race continues on, as Wager sets the fastest lap there.
Back to Owen McLaughlin, just ahead of the battle we were watching before in 10th place. He's got Jordan Walker just in front of him, about 6/10 ahead up the road. I'm noticing a lot of cars starting to get their own little space, not many riding super close to one another currently.
No, and that's not super surprising. There is a lot of medium to high-speed corners around here. The only real low-speed corner is that chicane that we just went through right there.
Yeah, and we come back to the battle for 2nd place. Ficadenti already 5 seconds behind Wager. He has gone off like a shot. The 47 is not interested in being near anybody in today's event. So Bo Phil chases. It looks like Wildridge in there, and then the last in this train of 4 is Baron Glover in 5th.
Well, and with how far Jonathan Wager is streaking away, there you can see him on your screen making his way through the S's right now. It will start to raise a little bit of a question. This is such a tiny little circuit here, Joe. Wager's going to run into some lap traffic before the end of this race, and that could really throw him off. As we jump back to the battle for 15th, this is Neil Alexander trying to work on Joe McCauley.
Once again, we saw them earlier. They must have passed Peter Lee, though, because I believe he was ahead of them before. So Neil Alexander must have gotten some sort of opportunity. Is a little deep into the chicane. McCauley has to try and straighten out the car. He's slow after that one up over the rise. Neil not close enough to attack into West Bend. Can he stick with it? He starts to drop back now.
Yeah, drops back a little bit, just not able to keep that foot planted coming through the diving turn. He's maybe going to hope to get a good little bit of draft here going down the Sam Posey straight. I don't think he's close enough. Jumping back here to Bergstrom, though, as he tries to make a good attack on Blake Ziti in front of him. A lot of drivers struggling to get a good overtake done here.
I'm not too shocked at that. We still have 30 minutes left to go, though, so we're only 5 minutes into this thing, even though we've already completed 6 laps. They're going to tick by so quickly. The drivers will get opportunities, but it's just they're all pretty much mostly going to happen into Big Bend. As we ride on board up the hill, you can see just how much hitting, just glancing that curb, really shook the car.
Yeah, those are big curbs, even by iRacing standard. There's a big plume of smoke there up in front. I'm not sure who that is off.
I think that's File.
It is Mark File.
And I think that was just him self-spinning. Didn't hit anybody, didn't hit the wall, so he'll get going once again. Let's pull up the replay. This happens out of diving turn.
So this is coming down that crest. Oh, just clips that inside curb and tries to catch it. Yeah, that was all just brake smoke from File. He's able to keep the car wound up back under him, and so he will be able to carry on. No real damage to that car. The only thing damaged in it is his ego.
The front group have all separated out. We're on board with Bo Phil, who's about the closest of them. Half a second up to Ficadenti into the first corner once again. Just riding in the tire tracks of that black and yellow number 4 machine. Looks like we still have all drivers running for what it's worth. Oliver Hartley had to take some repairs, but 29 starters still have 29 cars on track.
Yes, we do, and hopefully that will continue on. Love seeing that. Ooh, we've got a little bit of a side-by-side battle and a little bit of contact.
Oh, no. And off goes, I think, Mark File again. The second spin in about as many laps. He is now all the way to 25th after starting this race in 11th.
And I think this was just a little bit of bad luck and a little bit of over-eagerness on him. As he dives down the inside there, you can see it. It's one of the Delta Sport drivers trying to get around him, and just a little bit of contact.
It's always hard to find the space to get by somebody, excuse me, if I can get the words out. Sometimes moves get a little over-eager as Bo Phil looks like he might be getting a little bit closer. Yeah, down to 0.4 of a second. He is creeping ever forward onto the gearbox of that 4.
Yeah, he's definitely closing up, and ooh, takes a little bit of a look there on Ficadenti. I think just trying to see if he can force him offline a little bit. That sets up for a really good run, though, for Bo Phil. He's going to be right in the tire tracks up. Ficadenti has to back off a little bit at the end of diving turn, but he's going to be close enough to be able to maybe make a move.
As we watch him coming down the main straight, no dice behind them, though. You can see a little glance of Wildridge and Baron Glover going side by side. And that is a pass that I don't think will stick either, but it's much closer than what we witnessed with those two. You can see trying to cut back around Glover, tries to come back and doesn't get the exit that he wants, so he drops off. Wildridge with a successful defense of 4th.
Yeah, good defense there for him. So Wildridge being able to hold on. We saw him being a little bit aggressive there earlier. Bo Phil again trying to have a good look up on the end of Ficadenti up ahead, but ooh, that's a little bit wide coming through Big Bend, or West Bend rather.
And that costs him a valuable moment in the lap. He wants to be right on top of him here to really get a shot at things. Behind them, Wildridge has not got to fend off a threat this time through. Meanwhile, a little bit farther down, some weaving happening between Jordan Walker and Owen McLaughlin as he tries to break the slipstream of that 90.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit in the past, Joe, about the effectiveness of weaving like that. Yes, you're going to break a little bit of the strip steam, but honestly, the Sam Posey straight isn't long enough to really take advantage of it, and I think you're going to scrub too much time off of your own pace by squealing the tires like that back and forth rather than breaking the draft.
Awful close to the back of him through the chicane. Walker keeping half an eye on his mirrors, and just behind, about equidistant apart, is Yannick Belleville, who would certainly love those two to start battling here as we watch from his roof up ahead. Is this enough for McLaughlin? Doesn't look like it to me. Hitting the brakes and the brake lights lighting up. They all stay in line now through Big Bend.
Yes, they do, but that little battle did allow for Belleville to catch up a little bit to the back of Owen McLaughlin. And there you can see as they come through the S's, he's gaining a little bit on Jordan Walker. Is that Gulf liveried Ferrari? A little bit strange to see that on a Ferrari, but I'm still here for it. It's a pretty looking car and it's a pretty looking livery. Everybody slicing and dicing around there, trying to see if they can get anything. As we said, nobody able to go too wide through that chicane.
Ooh, this is a great exit from Owen. Once again, putting the pressure onto Jordan Walker, watching from on board Blake Ziti, another one with a front row view to the action here. Oh, off into the grass. There goes the blue and orange of Owen McLaughlin. Thankfully does not wreck it, but didn't help his chances in that maneuver.
No, he did not. I am pretty impressed, though, that he was able to keep that as close as he was behind the car in front of him. Very, very, very sketchy there as he's trying to get in behind Walker. Walker looks like he doesn't have the best run out of Big Bend, and it looks like McLaughlin has the advantage there. He's just going to have to figure out how to make that press work.
Looks really good coming out of the S's and onto No Name straight and uses the cutback to beautiful effect. He's going to get to the inside of Jordan Walker and sneaks through. Well, there's one of the first passes we've seen that has not taken place into Big Bend. Beautiful maneuver there from the 90.
Very good maneuver. And I thought Yannick Belleville there was going to have a shot to be able to stun it up the inside of him as well, but looks like that was not meant to be. Back down hard onto the binders here as they go through Big Bend again. Once again, though, looking like Walker's just struggling a little bit to get off at the corner.
That seems to be the trick here, because it was that corner exit that allowed Owen McLaughlin to get the pass in. Jordan Walker might be a sitting duck here if he keeps failing to find the traction. Blake Ziti would certainly like that. Down through the chicane once again. This time looked a lot smoother there for the 3-car.
Yeah, much smoother. And Joe, you know, I just took a look at our live time and scoring tower there. Wager has a 12-second lead over the rest of this field. This is incredible from the driver of the 47.
He's already lapping the back of the field, honestly. And we're on lap 14 out of what we expect to be around 42 as we hop on board with him. This is starting to look like it is going to be 3 for 3, but you just never know. Sometimes the lap traffic does not play nice, and it can certainly bite you. You can see the difference in the lap times. There was only one where Ficadenti was quicker. And meanwhile, it sounded like over the radio, Joe McCauley was not happy about something.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what Joe was on the voice chat about there, but there you can see Wager on your screen. Working his way around. There is McCauley. That is in front of, ooh, that's a car going off right in front of him. That was Peter Lee having a little bit of a problem.
I wonder if Lee's got some damage, because I found out what the yelling was about. Is I believe, now I lost who it was, but a driver went to the inside. Oh, it was Oliver Hartley, excuse me, it was our lapped car. Went to the inside of McLaughlin and punted the back of Peter Lee. So he might be experiencing a few problems without how that thing is handling as somebody goes into pit lane. Oh, it's Pim Luth. That wasn't an entry into pit lane. That was a spin into pit lane.
Oh my goodness, let's check this out on replay for Pim here. This is a bizarro incident as we bring this up on the replay. Riding on board with Pim here. This is coming out of West Bend and down through diving turn. Gets that corner right, and just what happens to Pim here, Joe?
Well, it's going to be a plus 10 for style points. It's going to be a minus 100 for damage as he just loops it around and is facing the right way. Oh, and he tows immediately, so he must have gotten a great bit of damage out of that, unfortunately. And am I seeing Cowgill just had a similar incident? Yeah, he did, as we now watch Baron Glover live from his roof cam.
Yeah, so that pit lane catching some drivers out, and not in a good way as they mean to, although we are down about 15 minutes in this race, so I expect drivers to maybe start thinking about pit stops here, especially some of the drivers that are stuck in a big train of cars.
Yeah, but the problem is the laps are so short. I'm looking at the track map, and it's a bit of a conveyor belt. There's very few gaps around the entirety of the circuit already. So if you pit early, that's going to be a real gamble trying to stay out of trouble. You just saw a flash of Cowgill at the bottom of your screen getting back out onto the track. The lead is already up to 16 seconds. Oh, and Wildridge and Glover now going side by side for 4th place.
Oh, they are indeed. Wildridge able to hold on to that position, but I don't know how. Baron Glover definitely getting feisty there, and Leif Hellberg behind them starting to get a little interested as well.
Wildridge demonstrating just how hard it is to pass, because Glover had a good shot at it around the outside, but without much grip on that high line. It just wasn't meant to be here. Look at them start to approach both Phil and Ficadenti. If they stop squabbling amongst each other, they could maybe look at a 2nd place here, but they're going to give up so much time if they keep going side by side into that first corner.
Yeah, they certainly are, Joe, but I think they maybe are starting to realize that a little bit, but Glover just wants to be on the attack here. I think he really is starting to smell that position. Oh, got very close on the exit. Wildridge didn't exactly get it right. We ride on the hood here of Baron Glover's machine as this train snakes its way through the S's in Big Bend.
Continue to watch from on board Glover. All of them braking and accordioning together into the chicane. A little bit of a poor exit from Glover, actually, as Wildridge peels away from him, eyes forward to try and go on the attack for Rafael Beaufil. We're on board with the Gulf liveried car. Oh, and it's a fantastic run through diving turn from Rafael. Ficadenti tries to defend, covers all the way to the inside, and it almost looked like Rafael had to lift a little bit there.
Yeah, I think he did. That was a little bit of a checkup, but there you saw that Ficadenti carried, I think, a little bit too much momentum through mid-corner and had to check up Beaufil again. So some very good defensive driving here from Mauro Ficadenti to hold that number 786 at bay, but that's allowed for Paul Wildridge to catch up a little bit behind and maybe make life a little harder for that third-place machine.
And our eagle-eyed viewers who are looking off the back of that car may have noticed we're missing someone. Well, Baron Glover took that as a sign. Maybe I should pit, take a gamble, see if I can get some quicker times in this train. Good news is for Baron, he's actually out in clear air as we come down the front stretch yet again.
Yeah, down that front straightaway yet again. This is Baron Glover. You can see that clean air, and that's one of those things where if you've got a spotter or you've got a buddy that is working with you and checking out times on the track, that they will be able to pinpoint those positions for you and get you out into that clean air. But we're right on board right now with the 52 looking up ahead at that three-car train.
Into the left-hander. Beaufil is getting awful close at times to that yellow and black machine. Hasn't been able to actually make the pass stick. All he needs to do, though, is get one little mistake out of that four, and maybe he could have an easy overtake. Certainly not going to get it here as he fails to get the traction coming out of the chicane. Now into West Bend. Still none of them have responded to Baron Glover. I wonder if any of them have even noticed that he's disappeared.
I'm not sure if they have or if they haven't here, Joe, but I've got to give credit. Yep, there he goes.
Sorry, Helberg, just as we said that, decides that now is the time to try and react just in case he gets jumped. Oh, speaking of getting jumped, Baron Glover just got jumped by Setane Kara. Something happened to the 93. He's slow.
Oh, no. This is going to be... Did he get into some contact there? That car...
He did.
Yeah, that car does not look well.
Oh! Into the wall just before diving turn, and if he didn't have serious damage before, he does now. You're going to see some car-to-car contact into the chicane, as well as him just climbing over the sausage curb.
All right, so here it is through Big Bend, coming into there. There's the contact, and boom! Yeah, that could really upset the suspension there. That's a big lick. You can see a little bit of damage to the right side of that car. That definitely, yeah, he's in the pits. I think that's day over for him, unfortunately.
Right after he just took his stop, too, so even if he does get back out, it's going to hurt extra bad. By the way, Helberg back out in 20th position after that. Also in clear air, just ahead of Kara, who made that pass before, but Setane, remember, is on a charge after starting from 5th and getting bumped off the track early, so he's going to try and make a pass here. And this is for now 18th spot. We didn't see it on screen, excuse me, but the 444 has got a position.
And Joe, we're side by side for 8th place right now. Blake Zede, Alec Bergstrom, and Jordan Walker getting real spicy coming around the corner. That was Bergstrom, put a little bit on the back foot. Rafael Beaufil diving into the pits, but I think Jordan Walker's going to want to move here on Bergstrom, going down into the first corner, thinks about it, and then thinks better of it.
Thought for sure he was going to get a move in there, but these cars can brake so late into that right-hander. You're right about Beaufil taking his service. Helberg is the one that should come out near him, and Beaufil's done. There's Helberg on your screen. Beaufil is on the circuit, just at the bottom there of your view, and he is clear.
All right, right, so that's going to put them out in the position that they went in. Beaufil coming out in 17th. Setnik Kara, though, remember, took that very, very early stop. We saw that car getting some damage early on, able to jump that his way up behind Rafael Beaufil and in between him and Leif Hellberg. So we'll have to see as we've got a couple more takers on the pits, Randy Gross and Alex Bergstrom coming in.
By the way, our leader has lapped so many cars that Leif Hellberg is the first one lapped down in 19th. So Wager's been just picking them off. Some of that is due to pit stops, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is able to lap at least half of the field here. Continuing to see if Wildridge can do anything on Ficadenti. Nothing there in the chicane this time by, but getting nearly within touching distance of that rear bumper.
Yeah, very, very close for Wildridge, trying to keep that fight up. That's a little bit of lapped cars up ahead of them. As we're going to see if anybody's going to dive off into the pits here. No, lap traffic getting out of the way most kindly, though.
Yeah, glad to see good heads up there from our lapped cars. David Hebert in the bright blue machine, just making sure to get off to the side. It's 13 minutes left on the clock. Kind of wonder how far some of these drivers can go. We already know that's a talking point over at the Hungaroring, but I mean, there's a lot of places where I gotta think that they could be just lifting and coasting a bit through some of the swift corners.
Well, I'll tell you one driver who didn't think that, and that is our leader, Jonathan Wager, diving off into the pits right now. He's right on board with Yannick Belleville. A couple more takers, it looks like, that are coming down. Eric Evans, as Wager comes to rest in his pit stall right now. Just a quick splash and dash there for the leader. Looks like he's not going to maintain the lead there, but he'll get it back in short time.
Even still, easily going to lead the most laps in this one. Owen McLaughlin also decides to pit. Looks like Joe McCauley is coming in, but a majority of the front runners are going to cycle around one more time. In fact, it's happening so quickly. Ficadenti's already to the chicane, so he's just about more than halfway around the lap.
Yeah, it goes to show you just how quickly these laps tick by here at Lime Rock. That's Ficadenti and Wildridge on your screen right there. I have to imagine they'll be coming in pretty shortly here. Looks like McCauley and Sumner are both into the pits as well.
Round diving turn, and neither of them heading on in. So, and I think Blake Ziti is in. As ahead of him, Jonathan Wager is trying to overtake somebody. I think that is Jordan Walker.
And that's got to be in the past tense here at this point, because Wager has used that speed to get on by Jordan Walker. Walker yet to pit at this point. So Wager's now got some clean track up in front of him. He's got David Hebert, Peter Lee, and Joe McCauley, all of whom are a lap down. That he has got to get by before he gets to the leaders who have not pitted yet.
And look at the gap to the lead. He's so much faster. It's like ticking down like a clock. This is just unreal.
It really and truly is, but Ficadenti and Wildridge still not coming in right now, so they're going to keep on going, getting closer to about 10 minutes to go here at Lime Rock.
I thought I heard something from Rafael Beaufil. Oh, he is in a mess of cars right now. If we go to Beaufil, and that involves Mark File, and Beaufil goes off. Oh no, through West Bend, barely keeps it from wrecking. This had Senade Kara, Mark File, and Spencer Simkovich all around him.
Well, and of that, there were drivers that were on the lap at Sim, so they're entitled to hold the position, but let's watch this. Oh, that is just some bumping and banging up in front of him. We're right on board with Beaufil here as he just gets boxed in.
Drivers once again trying to make a pass in the chicane, and Kara has unfortunately DNF'd. You saw the blip. Setne has run out of incident points, I think.
He has indeed, and that is a DQ from him. So that is going to take him out of the race. Paul Wildridge has dove into the pits here, leaving Ficadenti out front.
Okay, so how long is he going to try and go on as Wager now inherits second place? Wildridge in, Carmody is pitting. Let's see, is Lawson Christie in? Yes, Lawson Christie also in pit lane. So that means we're just missing David Bear, who's down in 19th, who needs to pit, and Ficadenti. 2 drivers left.
Yeah, only 2 out there. Ficadenti looking like he's a little soft, but there he is going to come into the pits right now. I think that was just Mauro taking advantage as much as possible, some clear track in front of him, but this will re-promote Jonathan Wager back to the lead. It's now a matter of if Wildridge will be able to get by him. So we watch Wager working his way past Mark Files, some lap traffic.
If I'm Wager, I'm being ultra careful around these lapped cars because this is his race to lose. In fact, once we see the gap updated, which I want to say is over 20 seconds at this point, it's that's massive. It is only a 50-second lap around here. So back onto the track for Ficadenti, but he's down in 7th. My goodness, Mauro lost a lot in those pit stops. He was up in 3rd, wasn't he?
He was, and what happened was he got confused as to where his box was. There were a couple of cars that were parked having taken a tow in pit lane, and I think Mauro thought his pit stall was right in front of them, and he tried to come to a halt and then realized his pit stall was later on down, so that cost him a couple of seconds in the pits.
Riding on board with McLaughlin now. I can tell you that Joe McCauley had an off in Big Bend, came back on without further incident, didn't hit anything. The gap is 24 seconds from P1 to P2. That is quite literally half the lap.
Yeah, and it's half of the field that has gone a lap down at this point. Only 15 cars left on the lead lap with about 7.5 minutes to go. Keeping an eye here on that battle as we watch both Phil trying to track down a little bit on Paul Wildridge, but Hellberg and McLaughlin lining up behind them. So a little bit of a 4-car train here that is starting to develop, and this could get very, very action-packed in the closing stages of this race.
Kind of surprised that Beaufil's still in it with the way that he had his off coming up here into West Bend earlier. Hellberg drops off a little bit for the poor exit out of the chicane. And Owen McLaughlin chasing as well down along the main straight. Here comes Beaufil. He's going to get a whiff of that slipstream. The improper racing car closes in, but it doesn't look like it's long enough.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a lift early there from Beaufil. Now, I'm not sure if that is a strategy call from him, that he may have just underfueled the car slightly, or if that was an issue of just not wanting to get too close behind Paul Wildridge because he just didn't want to risk throwing away a position on a bad break.
Yeah, no point in trying to send it too wide into that corner if you know it's not going to stick. Might as well keep to your racing line. 6 minutes left now on the clock as the drivers whiz by on the front stretch. We hop back to the onboard of Owen McLaughlin trying to catch up to his teammate. And ahead of him, way off track there for Beaufil. He's going to be under attack as Hellberg's got a massive run. He'll be around the outside, though. Can he make it stick? He sends it in as deep as he dares, keeps it on the pavement. If he can hold the inside into the left-hander, he's got the spot. I think he might have it, and there it is. Beautiful stuff.
Excellent move there from Leif Hellberg to just be able to hold that out. Rafael Beaufil doing a great job to try to hold on to that position and be defensive as much as possible, but that error coming off a diving turn just costing him.
Riding on board now with Owen McLaughlin. I was about to say he's trying to catch his teammate who's running in second, Paul Wildridge. Eagle Vision Racing might have a very good day in points here, depending on what can be scooped up by the 90.
Very well could. Woo, but I don't think Rafael Beaufil has any intention of letting this position go quietly. He's going to try to make a pass down the main straightaway, getting very close to Hellberg. Now he's going to back off as they go into that first corner.
So Beaufil wants it. He clearly wants to try and get this spot, but that's the second time we've seen him just back out of a move that he could have been more aggressive about. Just maybe potentially wants to see the checkered flag, especially with how wild this race has already been for him.
Yeah, I think that may be part of the calculus there, but I also think Rafael does want to be on that podium if at all possible. So he's going to go for the move if it presents itself, but he's also cagey enough to know not to try to just chuck it in and throw it all away.
We've already been extended to about 25 seconds there for the lead as Wager finds himself with nobody to fight except for this lap traffic. Down into the first corner once again. Wildridge just not close enough to Hellberg. Owen McLaughlin been sizing both of them up as we watch from on board the Eagle Vision car.
Yeah, and you can see there that Beau Phil just keeps to hound the back of Leif Hellberg's 52 machine there, trying to see what he's able to get there under heavy braking there, going into the chicane. Good run there for Beau Phil. This may be a little bit of a maneuver. He's going to maybe try to make it work around the outside. If nothing else, that'll help him carry a little bit more momentum. He forced Hellberg to go defensive.
Yeah, but Hellberg was parked on the apex, and Beau Phil knew it. He backed it up. This one could be a little bit better. Coming off of the diving turn, he's within about a car length of the 52. 52 covers the inside, down into Big Bend, and once again, no attempt from Beau Phil.
No, none there, just biding his time yet again, but this has allowed for Owen McLaughlin to catch back up to the back of the 786. So Beau Phil's got to be careful here. This patience, while it may pay off in the long run of the championship, if he doesn't go for a decisive move here, it may cost him 4th place.
Very well could. Oh, and coming through the chicane, Rafael did not have a good one through there. McLaughlin showing himself in his mirrors, trying to fill them up, see if he can shake that orange and blue machine. 2.5 minutes left to go on the clock. Not many laps left here.
No, not many at all. Time continuing to tick down. Everybody pretty well spaced out here, or at least as spaced out as we've seen them in a good long while. Going down into the first corner, you can see Wildridge pulling away, and his teammate Owen McLaughlin trying to get something over Beau Phil. Just looks like Beau Phil's a little smoother for that through that first couple of corners, and that's helping him to get a little bit more speed.
3 laps to go. Leader just crossed now, so we have 3 more attempts into Big Bend for the drivers for realistic shots at a pass, but it's going to be a brave person who tries it elsewhere. We have seen a couple eager attempts at those, some of them successful, some of them not. There is Wager on your screen in his black and red number 47. He's just behind the car of Barry Cochran, and that is 14th place that he's going to put a lap down out of 29 cars, only 28 of them still running.
Yeah, and so Wager here knows that he doesn't have to be aggressive on this overtake. He doesn't have to really go for it. He can honestly just kind of sit around here and coast. This will be 2 laps to go by my reckoning when they cross over the start-finish line here.
It is indeed. And, oh, well, Cochran's not exactly pulling over for him. Did make him work a little bit hard, but does let him through in the end. And Wager is probably happy he's got those 28 seconds as a buffer. Back in the middle of the pack, we haven't really shown a whole lot of these guys, but Randy Gross just behind Bergstrom and Walker.
Yeah, this is a good little battle that's been really raging across pit stops. As you can see them getting in a little bit closer to each other. Bergstrom trying to close in on the back of Walker. We ride on board with Randy Gross right here.
I think Gross is way too far back, unless he gets a mistake from those ahead. Because I think, okay, 2 laps to go this time by for Randy. Because the leader is just crossing right now. So some drivers might be getting an extra lap they didn't necessarily anticipate here with the way things are going. Back to Beau Phil once again. Still back in 4th place. Hellberg's not been within touching distance. But the good news is Owen McLaughlin's also dropped off the back of that car.
Yeah, and I was keeping an eye on that battle, Joe. It looked like that Beau Phil may have had a little bit of a run, but again, Hellberg just able to plant that car on West Bend perfectly to keep that any attack from Beau Phil from going any further. Now they go through this first corner one last time. Beau Phil knows his chances are running out to get on the podium.
And the podium is started now because Wager is off the final turn. And it is victory for the 47 for the third race in a row at the start of the season in the Ferrari Challenge. We got to wait a whole half a minute before we get Paul Hildridge to the line.
Yeah, really remarkable run for Jonathan Wager. This has a little bit of reminiscence of Joshua Chin's just dominance a couple of seasons ago in the open wheel version of the PRL series. But here comes Wildridge. He's going to be able to hold on to that second. It looks like Hellberg and Bofill lining up behind him.
Great job to our podium finishers, especially Leaf in that 52, up from 8th place on the grid. Owen McLaughlin also up 5 spots himself from 10th to 5th. Poor Ficadenti, that pit stop just cost him massively. As he started on the front row, he's only going to get a 6th place. Very close there across the line as Walker barely beat out Alex Bergstrom.
Yeah, barely.
Ziti just had an off.
Yeah, that was just a little bit of a self-spin coming off of diving turn there, Joe, but Ziti able to gather it back up and keep going. Let's check out the replay of exactly what happened.
Well, he was in a battle. This is a 29 from, that's Neil Alexander. He's going to defend. Oh, and he breaks a little too early. Touch of the grass. Ziti's around. Does he hit the wall? Yep, I'd say so.
Yeah, caught a little bit of the back of the wall, and you can see a little bit of damage on that rear wing, but Ziti very lucky that he was able to keep on going, mainly because his closest competitor, Barry Cochran, was a lap down.
Okay, that takes us to the results here today with Jonathan Wager not only taking the pole, I believe he got the fastest lap and the win. Question is if it was clean enough, if he got the bonus points for that. Yes, he did. So, perfect score for Jonathan Wager here today. Paul Wildridge was in second as Leif Hellberg finished in third. Rafael Bofill really wanted that podium since he started up there. It just wasn't meant to be. Owen McLaughlin helping the Eagle Vision cars get a lot of points today with that 5th as Ficadenti was in 6th, Belleville 7th, and Carmody in 8th. And it's Jordan Walker finishing 9th and Bergstrom in 10th.
In 11th, it was Randy Gross, followed by Neil Alexander and Blake Ziti, able to come home in 13th following that spin on the last lap. Barry Cochran was the first of your cars a lap down, followed by Lawson Christie and Mark Feil, with Joe McCauley, Peter Lee, Charles Sumner, and Matthew Aubrey rounding out your top 20.
Looks like Spencer Simkovich is going to be the last one to lap down in 21st. Hoskins 22nd as David Hebert finishes 23rd. Eric Evans 24th. And I over-anticipated how many were still running. I missed a lot of them were in pit lane getting repairs. Kara DNF'd due to incident points in 25th. Cowgill, Hartley, Glover, Pimluth, and Rund rounding out the fields. We're going to wait just a second to see if we can get anybody coming in to talk to us from the podium finishers, because none of them have arrived for their interview quite yet. But man, we expected some chaos, and some chaos we got.
Yeah, indeed we did. Joe Limerock showing us why it may be one of the oldest circuits on the iRacing service, but it is still one of the most favorite. Absolutely fantastic action there. And yet again, Jonathan Wager just proving that he is the cream of the crop here. 3 for 3 for that Ferrari up front.
In spite of that 4th place finish, Bofill was the best positioned since Luke, and I think Stetzel wasn't here as well. So they're both going to lose points and have to count that as a drop week. Otherwise, I see Baron Glover did not have the best of days today, I don't believe. Yeah, he finished 28th, so that's going to hurt him. Basically, Wager and Bofill, the only ones coming out with a decent day of our championship contenders. Still don't see anybody joining us, so I'm afraid we're just going to have to take off here. But again, as we said before, this broadcast is not over. The racing's not over as we head off to the Hungaroring for the GT3 AM Series here in the Precision Racing League. Stick around.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome to the Hungaroring, the latest edition here on iRacing. And as it usually puts on a good show in the real world, it certainly put one on last night. In case you missed that, though, let's head to our track guide to learn a little bit more about this place. Welcome to the Hungaroring. Situated just northeast of Budapest, this Grand Prix circuit has racked up a stunning history in just a little more than 30 years of existence. Its biggest claim to fame was holding the first Formula One race inside the Iron Curtain at a time when the Cold War was at its peak. But most fans don't associate this 2.7-mile or 4.38-kilometer track with politics. No, its 14 turns make it tight and twisty with a reputation for few places to overtake. For a long time, it was renowned for processional races in which qualifying is of the utmost importance. But the past couple decades have seen a litany of utterly wild and unpredictable races that greatly overshadow the single-file events of before. The majority of passing takes place into Turn 1, while some battles do carry on into Turn 2. But be careful about how greedy you get, because the steep drop in elevation makes it easy to go wide. Other than that, Turn 12 is often the only other realistic place to sneak by your opponent. Perhaps the scariest and trickiest of the corners is 4, which presents a blind and crooked entry into a high-speed flick. Though modern times have seen a paved runoff added to it to make it safer, that's considered out of bounds, and drivers will find themselves being told to give back time if they abuse the exit. Built with fans in mind, the track sits in a natural bowl, allowing great views from most sides of the venue. It's easy to see why it's become a fan favorite on the F1 calendar, and there's little doubt it'll continue to see lots of racing for years to come. I love seeing all the different sites and the detail that they've put into this place. But DJ, based on what we saw last night, GT3 cars here, what's it like?
It's a whole lot of fun, Joe, and there's no other way to put that. The best overtaking you are going to see on this track is going to be all in Sector 1. It's going to be going down into Turn 1 and 2. We saw a couple of brave maneuvers getting pulled into Turns 4 and 5, but that gets exceedingly rare. From there on out, it is a technical portion of the track, obviously single wide through 6 and 7, and these GT cars, it's a lot to get them slowed down for that part. You've got to be very careful about carrying the momentum through the sweeper section of 8, 9, and 10. We were able to see a couple very, very aggressive dives in turns 11 and 12, but really those corners are much more about setting up the run onto the straightaway. So it's going to be, you've got to be very, very aggressive in the opening part of this, and then you've got to be very, very patient in the closing stages of the lap. So it's going to be a test on both sides for drivers here today.
Absolutely. And the drivers currently see Vincent Trepignet leading the points, with Kevin Norris following him only 5 behind here, as Jose Malbron is back by 8 points, and then Campbell 10, Louise Rady is 12. It stays pretty close here in the Drivers' Championship for the GT3 AMS. However, over in the Teams Championship, let's see if it's similar.
Well, there's a little bit of a gap up top for ASR AMA, but from there on out, it is an absolute dogfight, with L1 Esports Red only a point ahead of SRT Esports Blue, with R36 team only a point behind them, and 3 points back of that, NTR Motorsports Magenta. So a very, very close fight all the way from 5th to 2nd. And your leader of that team's championship, ASR AMA, not out of reach yet.
And for today's event, it's another 40-minute race like we saw last night, which will be a big talking point because we saw some drivers actually go without a pit stop for fuel. So we'll see if anybody tries that tonight. It is an open setup series, this one, as opposed to what we saw before, where everybody races the same setup in the Ferraris. They have the same incident points penalties, though, that you see on your screen, and the same bonuses, including the pole, which they are vying for right now. And I see that the temperatures here are actually pretty similar to what we saw over in Lime Rock Park. So the drivers have a nice, cozy little bit of racetrack to try and enjoy here today.
Yeah, they do 91-degree track temperature. That means the tires will come up to temp relatively quickly, and you don't have to worry too much about overheating them. It's in that nice little Goldilocks zone that we like to talk about. 7 to about 9 miles an hour of wind. They may have to be a little bit careful coming up over turn 5 and breaking down into 6 and 7. You could get a little buffeting there, but that's not too much to worry about. And that humidity low enough that it's not really going to affect a whole lot. So it is just going to be an all-out battle here as we watch Kyle Robertson coming through and going down into that very, very tight turns 6 and 7 complex.
There we get the onboard here with Kyle Robinson. Get to see what his focus is like as we watch back at the driver putting those inputs in. And he's actually looking quite smooth through this back section, much smoother than I usually am through here. I'm always sawing away at the wheel. And I can report our first drivers are now getting times down, which include Langlois in first with McLaughlin just behind him. And Horvath now jumps up to the pole.
Yes, he does indeed. Vincent Trepignet, our two-time winner here, now taking the pole by the tune of about 0.3 of a second. There is Nick McLaughlin, who we ride on aboard with as he makes his way down that plunging turns 2 and 3 section. Great bit of track to drive and to watch. Marc-Andre Desjardins coming in to 11th right now. Anderson Schmidt, Robbie Campbell bumping his way up into 3rd, and Vincent Sepulveda in 4th.
Yeah, Robbie Campbell was a force to be reckoned with when they were in the GT4s last season. Really dominated things up at the front of those guys. And here we see our lone Ford once again out here. I think this is the only Ford we've got, I'm pretty certain, who unfortunately is not going to get around for a second lap as he just hit the wall. So we jump over to Kwok Ninh, who has yet to set a time.
Yeah, this is his first lap there. Looks a little bit wide at the apex of turn 1. I think Kwok Ninh looking a little bit disappointed there from what we can see, obviously racing in VR. And the disparity of cars out here today, Kwok driving one of those BMWs, that is the favored car out here in this GT3 AM series, as opposed to the Porsche and the Ferrari like we saw last time out. Another one of those drivers favoring the BMW, that's Kevin Norris.
Another driver with VR, using it to great effect around some of the tighter turns at this circuit. Norris is just getting ready to set his second lap. He's got himself into 14th and is about 1.2 seconds off the pole. He goes faster by a huge margin, actually, and Norris is on the front row with that one.
Only for a second, though. Devin Horvath and the Porsche able to bump him off, and Vincent Trepanier doing better and improving on his time. So Trepanier continuing to set down a high benchmark for the rest of this field. Here comes Paul Espina. There you can see the multiple camera angle that Paul has for us. He's going to cross over the line right now, only good enough for 10th.
I can report that Robbie Campbell, who sits in 4th, is coming around to complete his 2nd lap. I think he'll have time for one, possibly both of the other laps that he's allowed, and unfortunately this one got deleted for him. So Paul Espina down into turn 2, just trying to hug that inside curve. We head back to Kevin Norris now in the 3rd place car. Let's see how he does with the chicane. Big curve to the inside of the 2nd part. He gives it a wide berth. Oh, and he slows.
Yeah, I think he's using this, maybe just trying to warm up the tires a little bit more, as you saw him swerving back and forth. Nathan Nicholson, though, jumping up to the top of the pylon in that number 2 Porsche, the Delta Sport, the RF Delta Sport driver, currently on the pole.
Wow, Nick McLaughlin's going to be the next one. He has his lap deleted, unfortunately. Ethan Tavadas is going to be down and across the line soon, as we watch Nicholson swing it out of turn 3, back up the hill towards 4. I'm keeping my eye on the number 1 machine, see if he can go higher than this 10th place spot. And as he crosses, it is a 44.3. That is pretty good, but it's up to 11, so only 2 spots improved. Anybody else being able to find time? Looks like Bowden, unfortunately, did not have his 2nd lap counted, so he's only going to get one more shot on that one. Two drivers really needing to watch out for those track boundaries here today.
Yeah, I just saw coming across the line, it looked like Trepanier and Norris both had their times deleted as well. This is a modern Formula 1 circuit, Joe, so it's very easy to get those off tracks, run wide off into the paved runoff, so drivers falling afoul of that right now. Waiting to see if anybody else is going to be able to set some quick times here. Not seeing any new ones pop across as Kyle Robertson makes his way up into 11th right now. That's the only improvement that I've seen thus far.
Same here. Let's see. Villegas is down and across. He goes up just a couple spots to 22nd. We're watching Scardura, one of the few that still needs to get a clean one on the board. As the 18 car comes around. Let's see if this one will actually count. It does. And that's good enough for 21st.
Ooh, Lucio Vargas getting friendly with a wall there. Jason Burmeister coming around. He's another one of those drivers that is yet to set a time, as is Kwok Nin. He has had 2 laps deleted. Joe, I was a little bit confused on that. I thought that was a scheme. He's missing his hood there.
Yeah, he is. What in the world? Why is he continuing around is the question, instead of coming in to get a spare car. And this is going to be, let's see, what lap is this for him? As I watch Langlois down and across. Last one for him. He does not improve. This is Kwok Nin now through the back half of the circuit. Bowden finally gets one on the board. That'll put him on 29th, though. He's the last one to have set a time. Kevin Norris improves. Kevin back into 4th place.
So Kevin setting down a good time. This is it now or never time, though, for Kwok Nin as he makes his way down and out of those corners here, leading into turn 12. Remember, Kwok yet to set a time, one of the 5 drivers not to do so in that BMW, so he has got to get on it here.
Also seen Louise in the 8 go up a few spots there. Robertson's now done his last lap deleted. Vargas not going to be able to complete all 4 of his. Villegas also not finding improvement. Now we look at Nin. Can he put one down? He crosses the line to 44.9. That'll do him handy. That's up to 20th.
That's not his best qualifying that we've seen, but I think given some of the problems that we've seen him having as Burmeister there, you see out of time, and that is it, Joe.
Grid is set here today, and it is Nathan Nicholson giving us a bit of a shock, putting it on the pole. Vincent Trepied is going to have his work cut out. Starting from P2, Devin Horvath will be third as Kevin Norris is fourth, and Robbie Campbell in the fifth position. Then you've got Jean-Claude Langlois in sixth, followed by Magnon in P7, Tavetas in eighth, and then Sepulveda on the inside of row 5 there in P9. McLaughlin rounds out your top 10.
Starting off in 11th, it will be Kyle Robertson, followed by Luis Reedy, with Paul Espina and Alexander Breton behind them. In row 8, it's Gabriel Neone with Anderson Schmidt in 16th. Nico Zanadakis will be starting off 17th, and to his outside, it'll be Claude Belleville with Fabio Scudora and Michael Padolano rounding out your top 20.
Kwok Nin, 21st for him with his lone lap that he was able to get down. Jose Malbron, 22nd, with Kwiatkowski in 23rd. Jorge Ordonez Villegas in 24th is followed by Marc-Andre Desjardins in P25. Chet Miller starts 26th today, followed by Rines in 27th and Swindells in 28th. Last two drivers at times are Morse and Bowden to round out the 30 cars up at the front, and then Rodriguez, Blord, Vargas, and Burmeister will get gridded up at the back of the field as we get ready to roll here for round 3 in the Precision Racing League GT3 AM Series.
And this is sure to be a good one. And one of the things we'll have to keep an eye on is when Nathan Nicholson decides to go in that leading Porsche. We saw a very early jump last night. I expect the same thing again here today, and that's going to catch out some of the drivers at the back as they'll just be rounding turn 14 by the time he gets on the loud pedal.
Well, at least we've got a heads up this time. If we see someone kind of falling through the order, looking like they're losing some spots, we need to maybe hop on board and watch and listen to see if they're lifting and coasting at all and trying to make this one to the end. And I think we still need Breton, Rodriguez, and Plord out on track. Otherwise, we're not going to get going. No, we are going to get going. They're going to start from pit lane here today as we now accelerate towards the last 3 corners. Kyle showing us his view as he just preps to get going in that Formula-style rim that he's got on his wheel.
Indeed, as they make their way here through turn 13, just keeping an eye on the Porsche pace car as it dives in, turning control of the field over to another Porsche, Nathan Nicholson.
Okay, Nathan, what have you got? Are you going to go early like we saw before? Kind of selling a bit of a dummy there as the Canadian Trepied, who's outside, was going a little before him and then got caught out. So Nicholson takes the green flag and is away. Second place already slips through the fingers of Trepied. Down the inside, Horvath is ahead of him. Could he fall to fourth by the first corner? Norris has to brake hard to keep from getting in the back. Thankfully, I'm not seeing any big bowling balls like we had last night into that first corner.
I thought for sure there that Kevin Norris was going to be in the back of Devin Horvath, but able to hold that car together. Now it's Vincent Trepied seeing a little bit of red in his eyes, going down to the inside of Kevin Norris, able to make that turn work for his advantage through turn 3, and that is Trepied back into third.
And look at the change in the way that that wheel is moving here at the start. Lots of little corrections that he's got on the wheel as Kevin Norris is feeling the adrenaline, trying to hold on to our top 3.
He's doing a good job to keep up the back, but this is where we enter that technical section. This is where the drivers really have to be careful. Very easy to concertina into the back of somebody going down in through 6 and 7. And we are hearing that we are already sensing some of these drivers clutching and coasting, going for that no-stop strategy.
So far, so good. I see all 32 cars still rolling, and I haven't seen any major offs or wrecks. Fingers crossed and knocking on wood. Down into turn 12 for Nicholson. He's well out of range of Horvath for the time being. That Porsche not under threat directly as we got some changes in position a little farther back. I see Espina for some reason losing. Whoa, and Espina is making some aggressive moves here. He's in a hell of a fight with Louise in the 8 car.
Yes, he is. We also watch here is this is McLaughlin trying to go down the inside of Vincente Sepulveda as they get onto the main straightaway. That is going to be McLaughlin trying to slide back into place there, keeping ahead of Ethan Tavetas, but they're going to be side by side now as they go ready into turn 1.
Nick tries to get on the brakes, but he's a little earlier than Tavitas, going around the outside. If he keeps the inside down to 2, he's got it. And he's got a little bit of overlap as we ride on board now with Kyle Robertson watching the pair continue this fight into the corner, sending the Porsche deep on the Ford. The one really wants this spot and is not willing to give it up.
No, he's not, but finally has to give up a little bit of the ghost. Oh, I may have spoken too early. He's going to try around the outside of turn 4. That's a hard position to do it, but there he backs out of it. McLaughlin able to hold on to that well-deserved P9.
Kwok takes a little peek, or excuse me, not Kwok, in a similar painted car, same team, Kyle Robertson, trying to get his nose in there, but just wasn't close enough. Single file now through the chicane here on the back of the circuit. And are we seeing a marked difference from what we experienced in the first round? The pros were feisty, always looking for spots, especially here at the start. These guys almost look like they're just on for a Sunday cruise.
Well, I think that's part of the strategy of what we saw play out last time, Joe, is that the pros, those couple of drivers that made that no-stop strategy work, I think a lot of people saw that, and a lot of people are trying to emulate that. In return, if I'm racing in this and I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to make it, I am going for broke this entire time out. Whoa! As Reedy and Espina getting very feisty.
Yeah, they were battling earlier, and they're going to settle that one out as we were watching from Kwok Nin's perspective. See a little bit of a fight there for a moment as we once again check on Espina. Uh-oh. Reedy has got some company. That's Breton down there looking to the inside, and the purple BMW tries to brake late. Holy cow! Here comes Louise down the inside. Caught me napping, that's for sure. I didn't think that was going to be a pass at all. And almost another spot lost here for Espina as he has to fend off. No, he's going to fight back. Coming back on Reedy. Gets to the inside down into turn 2. Oh, but he gets fed out before 3.
Does indeed. I thought that Reedy was going to go for a defensive move there, and that being a pass never even entered my mind. They climb the hill here, going up to turn 4. Everybody's sticking in single file order, but these drivers around the P10 position looking very feisty.
This is the action we were looking for. Someone goes wide there. That is Gabriel Neon in the 91. Zanadakis is going to try and attack him down into the chicane. Side by side through here. Rarely works very well. Some wheel spin from Nikos. Can he hold on to it? He holds onto the car, but not the spot. He slips back to 16th.
I'm speechless at Nico Zanadakis. I love watching this guy drive. He is always on the attack, always aggressive. While Braun looking maybe for a little bit of an attack here on Nikos. Going to go down to the inside of turn 11. Is he going to make that stick? Forces Nikos out wide, and I think he's got that position.
There's one more going away. As Anderson Schmidt's going to try and take advantage as well. But unfortunately, that doesn't work out. Well, no one says no way to Jose, so he's going to get 16th. Now he sets his sights on Neon.
He'll keep his eye facing forward, but we're going to jump back here. This is Scardura, maybe trying to make a look down the inside of the 56 of Belleville there. Not able to make it work exactly, but he may get a little bit of a run down the main straight.
Seeing a bit of a chain reaction here. One car makes an attack. It either works or it doesn't. Next car down gets to make an attack. It's looking like if someone in front of you makes a move, you better be on your toes, as Scardura is on the very tippy toes on the brakes, just getting to the inside of Belval, but not getting through.
Yeah, not able to make it work there. Now we'll have to see. There's a little bit of fanning out of the back if that give and take plays out. Nobody looking to make the attack down into turn 2. So that will mean a little bit of a breather there as we jump back up into the field here with Trepanier in 3rd, closing in behind those 2 leading Porsches of Nicholson and Horvath.
Vincent in a little bit of unfamiliar territory here. Lost that 2nd place at the start. Has not been able to retake it back from Horvath. Although Horvath with a little bit of a slow run through the chicane. This will lead them single file here along the back half of the course with nowhere to go. That white Porsche has the whole track to himself.
Right on board here with Nick McLaughlin in 9th, and he's got his eyes focused up ahead on the road of Flynn Mannion, one of the few Lamborghinis out in the field. Mannion trying to work on Vincente Sepulveda up ahead of him. A little bit of a wide run there for Mannion. That may hurt him a little bit, but I think he's going to be able to gather it back under him. Now, what's going to be interesting here is that is a Lamborghini versus a BMW. The Lambo known of being pretty quick in a straight line, so let's keep an eye to see if he's able to use that raw horsepower to get something down the main straightaway.
Here we go. This is where they got to set it up off the final turn. As Sepulveda is a little wide. That could be a great shot for Philippe. And he's starting to gain as we see the Lamborghini pull in on Sepulveda's BMW. Sepulveda's not feeling good about this. He covers off the inside to keep the Lambo from passing, and it's going to work out for him.
It's going to work out, and I think it may even hurt him. Is that, I thought for a second there that Nick McLaughlin may have had a little bit of a look going down with that forward on the Lamborghini. Not quite close enough. McLaughlin just biding his time. A little bit of a wide run there for Philippe as well. Not looking the best here. But this battle up front, the second, third, and fourth, getting a little bit close here, Joe, as we ride on board with Kevin Norris.
And Norris is using a lot of clutch here, lifting and coasting, trying to save some fuel. This is going to be fascinating to see just how many of them can save enough. Let's listen. I wonder, are we going to get more than half the field potentially going without a pit stop here today? Which I hope, if that's the case, I hope that'll bring us at least some intrigue at the end and not everybody running in line like they are now. Maybe a few getting too tight on it and having to save that little bit more. Almost would wind up like a Formula E race.
Yeah, very well could, Joe. But I think that, as I was sort of saying, if I was worried about running short, riding on board with Kwok Nin, that's a whole train up in front of him, Scardura, Neone, Belville, and Schmidt. If I was worried about not being able to make it, you're going to see two strategies. One group that is going to be clutching and coasting from the very beginning and know that they have to hit those fuel numbers, and the others who are just going for broke here and not worried about fuel at all. Ooh, is a little bit of a battle shaping up there for P3. That was Norris a little bit late on the brakes, trying to get a move on Vincent Trepanier. Not able to make it work. He's going to lose a couple attempts.
I wonder how much those little maneuvers we see from the 74 is more just him doing that lift and coast, trying to carry the momentum into the corner, being like Dixon there. Let's watch again here through turn 5, because last time he certainly carried a lot of speed through there. Now that's very smooth that time there from the 74. And into turn 5 once again. It is Nicholson, your leader, Horvath in second, Trepanier third, Norris and Campbell rounding out your top 5s. We head back to the mid-pack, looking at Zanadakis, who's getting a train forming behind him. Schmidt, Belval, and Neon.
Yeah, and this is that same battle that we were checking out from Kwok Nin's perspective. Zanadakis able to clear these guys, but as you said, I think he's holding everybody up a little bit, kicking up a little bit of dirt there on the exit of turn 7. Now into the technical portion of the track. BMW that Zanadakis is in, whoa, runs wide there. I was just about to compliment on how well it handles, and it's a very planted car, but clearly a little understeery there for Nico Zanadakis.
Still didn't lose a whole lot of time, so he looks okay as we once again hop over to McLaughlin a little farther up the order. The thing that amuses me from his onboard here, where we can see the dash, is this Ford GT3 was modified from the GT2, obviously, which came out, I believe, around 06, 07, or somewhere around there. So this the differences between this dash and cars, which are literally from this year or last year around him, is markedly different.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an analog to digital watch comparison. You can see all of the buttons as compared to everything else. But Nick, the lone Ford in the field, and doing a good job for the Blue Oval, currently running in top 10.
Ooh, we got to go to Trepanier. He had a look as he was very close on Horvath, but that was into turn 4. So it was going to be very risky to attempt it. But for once, he has run down the 33 and is poking his nose out.
Riding on board here with Kevin Norris as we enter into the technical sector 2 here. All drivers taking a big chunk of that inside curve. Kevin taking a lot of clutch going into the heavy braking zone, so clearly trying to save some fuel here and make it as long as he can.
You have to think, if any of these guys aren't planning on going to the end, they've got to start making moves on these drivers, because if they're being held up, they're not going to be able to pass them later on. because they're going to lose time in the pit stops. And we need to see some overtakes, or else everybody here is going to have to hope that they can do that no stop. And I hear someone in the lane as one of our back markers. That's the 48.
Indeed it is. Here are our leaders, though, coming out of that final corner. Defensive move there from Nicholson. That's a little bit interesting. I wonder if that is maybe a little bit less about being worried about getting overtaken and more about just trying to hurt the car behind him in terms of fuel conservation. The 56, Claude Bevel, driving down pit lane.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, so that is from the mid-pack, and we're not even to halfway. Yeah, I agree. I think Nicholson, he's pushing the air for all those behind him, even though slipstream's not a big thing here. If he's given any to those behind, that's going to be even more fuel saved by them. So he wants to stop giving them their advantage. And here's a great example, the 2020 BMW M4 for Vincent Trepanier. Look at the difference of that dash on that car.
Utterly digital, absolutely everything digital, and on the wheel itself. So you can really do see the difference between that and that old Ford GT. But I will say the one thing the Ford GT has going for it, it is one of the best sounding cars on iRacing.
I always have to try and remind myself, because time continues to march on for us old guys, that the difference between, the 2020 car and 07 cars, looks like Nick's got some damage on that Ford now. Is basically, if we were kids, back in, or at least for me when I was a kid in 94, it'd be like a car from 1980 being compared to it.
Well, I just feel very old. And Joe, I can report that what happened there to Nick McLaughlin coming up out of turn 4, just a little bit of a self-error, caught a little bit of that exit curve that we talked about, and found himself making a little kiss to the outside wall.
Ooh, okay. So will that cause him to maybe try and come in a little early? Well, if he's trying to do a one-stopper here. Doesn't seem to be hurting him too bad. Oh, and Gabriel in the 91 is around in turn 13. Not sure if he had help on this. I don't think he did. I think he self-spun.
Well, turns 13 and 14 around here, Joe, are pretty flat corners, and so it's very easy to goose the throttle, get on it a little bit early, and get those rear tires to spin. It's something that I really expect to see out of the Porsche, as Horvath looks like he's got a bit of a run there. But let's check this out, as this is Neone coming down into 12, now into 13. Yep, just a little bit too much speed in the corner. Absolutely spins it.
So, unfortunately, that'll cost him some positions as we come back to our leaders. And holy cow, it has gotten much, much tighter since we last looked. The top 4 are only separated by roughly a second. And then Robbie Campbell's just behind them only by 7 more tenths. So the top 5 have suddenly just scrunched together.
Yeah, they certainly have. I'm not sure if that's overtaking at its finest or what it is, but Joe, we got to jump back here to this battle for P13. This was getting absolutely fiery coming out of the twisty section. They were side by side going into the chicane. Now in the back, you see Xanadakis under attack from Anderson Schmidt. This is all over the place.
This is led by Mal Braun at the front of it, who takes a wide entry. Espina thinks about it, but then decides not to. Breton is the third in line, Xanadakis, and we got a pitter amongst them. Anderson Schmidt doesn't like the looks of this, so he is going to abandon ship and try and jump them with some pit strategy. And look at them weaving down the front stretch now.
Yeah, that's Malbron trying to break the draft of Espina behind him. Breton and Xanadakis tucking in there as well. This battle now looking like it's died down a little bit, but it was fierce and fast coming through Sector 2.
I tell you what, in comparison to before at Lime Rock, where there's no place to hide, this lap is plenty long enough. I just checked in on Belval, who is our only one we think who's taken an official stop already. He's just been running by himself. Nobody's really been close to being lapped at all. So if you pit from the mid-pack, even maybe from the front of the pack, you can get into a whole lot of clear air.
Yeah, and I think that may be a pretty good strategy, especially as difficult as it is running behind a car in sectors 2 and 3 around here. And it can really, really check you up. Riding on board. Whoa! That was Alexander Breton thinking about running into the back of Paul Espina, but able to get that BMW wound up underneath him.
Car's going to be very brave about how close they get to those in front, as both of them going a little wide there off of 9. By the way, Anderson Schmidt, who I said had pitted, he came out directly in front of Claude Belval, so he no longer has that clear track.
You know, that's the one thing that can scupper it, and I think that may have been a little bit of the strategy of Anderson Schmidt, is that he saw that and decided to run with it a little bit. This car's Constantina. Again, this is that battle that we've been following. Anybody deciding to come down pit lane out of this? No. Looks like they're all going to stay in line. Oh, yes, there's a Beamer coming in.
And in the meantime, as we jump up to the leaders, Campbell on the attack, but so was Horvath. He actually put a nose inside of Nicholson. It did not stick. And it was Scardura that pitted earlier that we saw just on the side of our screen before we cut away from that pit entry. Back up to Horvath in his YS Motorsport Porsche. You can see he is still within 0.2 of a second of Nathan Nicholson. He could make this pass and try and get by him before the pit stops, if they stop for pits.
He certainly could, and if he's able to hit the fuel numbers and still be this aggressive, that's a very scary Porsche number 33, that white machine that is in the mirror of Nathan Nicholson. Make their way now into turn 8. Everybody in single file order at this point, but Horvath looking very aggressive.
All 3 of the cars that have pitted have all come out nose to tail amongst each other, so the strategy, which I thought would work out quite well, is not for our drivers who are going for the ultimate call as we continue to watch here them through turn 2. These are our drivers who have taken the stop, and Belval was the first of them, now sandwiched between his rivals.
And he's got to be kicking himself a little bit, trying to get forward as much as possible here at this point. I like the idea of going for a massive undercut like this. You know, a lot of drivers are going to be trying to save there, and getting out into clean air like this could play off. Jumping back to the leaders here, though. Horvath trying to close in on Nicholson again. Doesn't look like he's quite got it, but right up behind that rear wing as they dive into turn 1.
Making him think about it, making him glance in the mirrors from time to time and question whether or not he can chop down to that apex, or is he going to wind up hitting that white Porsche, which I'm sure is very bright. And Devin is wheeling this car. It is sliding all over.
Yeah, it really is, and this is one of the trickiest corners. Let's watch him here through turn 4. Oh, he is on edge, but you can see just how much confidence he does have in it. Lots of steering lock coming up through turn 5. Gains a little bit of time on Nicholson in front of him. Now on to the brakes heavy for this tricky chicane. Able to get out of it again. He is definitely hounding that number 2.
Did we cover Kevin Norris getting by Trepanier? Because I just noticed that Kevin is now on the podium, and I swear that was reversed last time we looked.
I'm not sure we did cover it, Joe, but Caven doing a good job of getting himself up onto the podium, so he'll be very happy about that. Bad news for fans of Jose Malbron, though. He has had a spin, falling afoul of those curbs on the exit of turn 4. He had a very hard lick into the wall.
I did find it while we were looking at this incident, and Trepanier got mugged into the chicane. It was a brave move from Norris to just catch him sleeping, and has since held on to that P3. So there's unfortunately the towed car after his incident on pit lane.
Riding on the hood, on the top here of Devin Horvath's machine, continuing this attack on Nathan Nicholson. Just seeing if he can close down any sort of time to that number 2. That gap, though, resolutely sticking at about 3/4 of a second.
It's not going away. Horvath making sure to keep the pressure on, just hasn't been able to try and get a legitimate overtake in. So when are we going to see someone else into the pits? We still only have those 3. Oh, I take that back. Lucio Vargas is the next one down in his Lamborghini. As someone looked like they wanted to exit out of the pits and then came to a halt. No, that was Vargas, excuse me. He was just angling his car.
Yeah, so Vargas pretty much splitting this race in perfect halves there. As we watch here on your screen, this is Magnan trying to chase down Vicente Sepulveda in front of him. Another great sounding car here on the service. That is the Lamborghini.
248 in front of him. He was hunting him on the front stretch as well. Tried to take a look to the inside, just couldn't get the nose completely inside of the BMW. Not going to show it here down into turn 12. Just stay in line for the time being. Maybe try to get himself set up once again for the front stretch. Let's stick with this. Let's see what he can do out of turn 14.
Looks like he lost a little bit of time there through turn 13, but he'll have another bite at the apple here. Slightly narrower line on entry now, just following in the tire tracks of that BMW. Gap expanding a little bit as they both get onto the power. Magnan trying to claw it in and holding about 0.3 of a second. There's a defensive move up ahead of him for Sepulveda. Is that going to allow for Magnan to get by on the outside? He's going to hold it and push that Lamborghini wide. That's not going to work quite yet.
Nope, Philippe, unfortunately, running out of traction, going the long way around. Still got plenty of laps to go. Whoa, as he goes wide into turn 2. We instead switch over to Nicholson ahead of Horvath. And they have really dropped Norris in the meantime. Caven is a full 1.5 seconds behind. Horvath nearly touching the rear bumper of that 2-car now.
He is, and Joe, I've been keeping an eye on this. What's interesting about it is Horvath doesn't necessarily look like he's trying to make a move. He's just kind of sticking behind Nicholson. Now, I don't know if that is a little bit of mental games there, seeing if he can force a mistake, or if it's an issue that he's perfectly happy to let that number 2 machine cut the air for him, and in turn, Horvath just take all of the draft that he can.
Ooh, he's feeling defensive now. He's not feeling totally safe, and he has to brake pretty early. I think Nicholson is also trying to save fuel as Horvath is either doing better or not saving fuel as we come into turn 13. Once again, given a defense from that blue number 2. Neither of them duck into pit lane. And down the front stretch now with 2 attacks and 2 corners. Is Devin going to make it a 3rd one into the first turn?
He had a much better line coming off of that final corner. There you see the defensive weave from Nathan Nicholson. Devin Horvath not being susceptible to it. I think he's going to try to hang this car around the outside going down into turn 1. It's a battle of the late breakers here between Horvath and Nicholson. Nicholson holds the line, forces Horvath a little bit wide. Horvath, though, carries more speed going down into turn 2. He's going to have to work around the outside again.
Can he pull a Danny Rick on this one? He's going to go for it. He holds his own, and eventually the traction runs out. So Horvath gives up the ghost, though it was a valiant effort.
It was indeed, and I have to say, I think that was a little bit ill-timed there from Devin Horvath. He lost time coming through turn 13. Wow, big wiggable from Horvath there in front, the rear end of that Porsche almost stepping out. Caven Norris now looking to maybe take some advantage.
And Norris was having to correct the car as well into turn 5. I wonder if the tires are starting to go out a little bit.
They may be, but it's only 90 degrees on track right now, so it's actually dropped a degree. And normally these GT3 tires can last 2 stints or so. So it may just be a little bit of a matter of they're overheated. I don't know necessarily about the full wear on them.
All depends on how they're driving it, I suppose. If they're being a little too rough through the corners, got to be smooth on this. And now that he has fought hard with Nicholson, Norris is all over him. Trepanier in there as well, but Robbie Campbell, who we mentioned earlier, is about 2 seconds back, so he's going to have to make up some time. None of the trio down into pits. Neither is Robbie Campbell, and Langlois is not as well.
All right, so everybody's spacing out a little bit more here. That gap from first to second up to about 0.6 of a second. No defensive weaving from Nathan Nicholson. He knows he doesn't have to use any of that extra speed to try to cover things off. Looks like a little bit later on the brakes there for Caven Norris, though, as he keeps some pressure up on that Porsche.
Right on board now with Vincent Trepanier. Now we're getting into the range that we started to see drivers pitting in if they do a one-stop. So keeping an eye out for that. I think we had David Morse in. Oh, and a spin for Gabriel Neon for the second time in this race. And for the second time, it was his self-spin.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as we've mentioned, that's an easy thing to do here around the Hungaroring. It's a track that requires a lot of patience. And if you're just a little too overeager on that throttle pedal, the rear end will step out and spin you right around.
It's been quite a bit of a single file train here at the front from many laps. We haven't seen a change for position since lap, I believe it was lap 10 for these cars. And a couple more heading in. Burmeister is now in pit lane. Oh, Zanadakis has had a problem. This was out of turn 4. Ooh, and this was a big wreck for the 07 car, unfortunately. This is going to be major damage.
And it again is that exit curbing on the exit of turn 4, catching out Nico Zanadakis. He was in a great battle here with Paul Espina. You can see him coming up and over, and that car just catches the lip in absolutely the wrong angle into the tire barrier, just nose first, and that is day done for the 07.
Yeah, he took a tow. He's going to park it with so little time left to try and repair that car. Robbie Campbell's in. This is the first of the front runners. He's joined by Tavitas and Nick McLaughlin in the Ford. He pits.
All right, so this is going to be a crucial moment here for these drivers to see what they're able to do now that they get their fuel stop. And let's not forget, though, that last time we did see drivers who did make a pit stop run out of fuel and miscalculating, so everybody having to be very, very careful here with that.
Absolutely. McLaughlin checking his gauges, making sure he's got everything right for the pit stop here. Out and rolling, smooth as you like.
And it's a little quick, though, at a 6.6 second stationary in the box. That's the fastest time we've seen out there today. Now, Nick is known for being very, very good on fuel, so probably knows what he can do, but he's still going to have to be a little bit careful.
They're way ahead of the nearest pitters with Claude Belval at the front of that group back in 20th. So it still worked out for this front group. Didn't seem like those behind were able. Oh, and something happened with the Ford. Did he lose control in turn 2? I just looked away.
I think it did snap away from him a little bit there, Joe. I looked away as well, but let's check out this replay. Coming down into turn 2, close on the heels of that Porsche, goes into the corner. You can see it, just a slow spin. Good job for Nick to gather that back up.
I always hate those when you get that lazy spin that goes on forever, as Trepanier calls their bluff and comes on in. Langlois going to follow, Sepulveda as well.
What's going to be interesting there, especially out of that battle, is going to be what Felipe Mignon is going to be able to do. Is Caven Norris looking a little bit feisty on there on Devin Horvath? Mignon now freed up. He's going to have some clean air to run and try to put in some fast laps.
And Robbie Campbell was about 2 seconds back when he pitted. So he had a 7.5 second stop. I'm waiting to see what happens as we ride on board with Norris, who is still lifting and coasting from our onboard sounds. Trepanier, 8.5. Robbie Campbell was about a second quicker in his pit stall. Is Trepanier going to get caught by the 93? I'm watching that as we keep the cameras here on Caven Norris. And it looks like, no, Robbie Campbell's not close enough to threaten Trepanier.
Yeah, that gap equalizing about to a second and a half, so Trepanier making the overcut work a little bit there. So waiting to see now with the rest of these drivers. This is a nice little battle facing up. This is Christopher Rhines trying to get by Langlois with Tavitas right behind, getting aggressive. Ooh, that was a fun little line there from Ethan Tavitas, thinking about trying to force a mistake out of that BMW.
And this is a mix of cars as well, because Rhines hasn't come in. Tavitas has, but he's going to be forced to go around the outside. Can he cut back underneath him? Little far wide off the track there for Christopher, but he defends down into turn 5, making life a pain for Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan really needs to get by. Is he going to try to send it down to the inside of the chicane here? He's thinking about it. He's going for it. He's got it.
Barely. I don't know. They both looked like they weren't going to make that corner, but somehow they cut back in time, and our leaders are pitting. They're not going to be able to make it to the end. Nicholson, Horvath, and Norris.
All right, so that leaves now Kyle Robertson, righty, Espina, and Breton out there. So that no-stop strategy not paying out for our leaders, even though we've been talking a lot about how much Caven Norris has been saving.
But he made it to about 8 minutes left. We're looking at lap times in the 1:45 range. So that's not too far away. There still could be others that are that much better on it. Norris back out and rolling. No change of position amongst them. Nicholson, Horvath, Norris, your order. Trepanier is coming along. Is he going to be able to catch them and jump them? He's looking for it, but he's just behind.
Not able to make it work there, but what these drivers will now know is that they are going to have absolutely full attack here. They know they've got the fuel. They don't have to save, so they're going to be going for broke.
On board with Vincent Trepanier. He's got the tires up to temperature compared to his rivals as well. Could he get a shot here if he gets close enough as we watch our current leader, Kyle Robertson, as his focus is fully on that screen, just spotting his apexes around the back part of the course.
Yeah, you can really see where his eyes are focusing, just getting those corners right before he even heads into them. Good determination there. There is a little bit of lifting and coasting going on for Robertson, but not nearly as much as we heard out of some of the drivers last night, so I'm imagining he may come into the pits here on this lap.
I was trying to make out what it said in the background there. Little objects look like Ravensburger. Is that what I'm seeing? Is that a reference to something I'm missing here? As he's going to pit in this time. Here we go. All right. So Robertson unable to make it to the end as well, and he was the last one. Everybody else has been in. Not going to see any heroics like the pros, unfortunately, though it got pretty close. We come back to Caven Norris. He'll inherit that third place once again once Robertson's back out on the track.
Yeah, so there go your leaders. Nicholson continuing to leading along Horvath, Norris, and Trepanier. Closing down a little bit, but that full attack mode's got to come through here soon at some point.
Yeah, at this stage, every driver has to pass on the track. There's no more trying to pull any tricky strategy as Horvath goes a little wide. A tiny little error, and Norris nearly had his man.
He nearly did, but let's see if Norris is able to get anything going here. We've seen it's possible to make passes in 4, 5, and apparently 6 as this battle goes along. And he's thinking about it, carries some good speed. Almost a snap of oversteer coming up through the rise on the hill. There's no way he is going to be brave enough. He thinks about it down at a 6, but thinks better of it.
Norris is looking a lot better than Horvath at this stage of the race. We're seeing little mistakes, little bobbles out of the 33. He's fallen off of Nicholson as he finally succumbing to the pressure that he's both been giving and taking all race long.
Very well might be, but able to get a good run there out of turn 11, so that'll give him a little bit of breathing space to try to build more of a gap. Norris just seems a lot better on the brakes into those heavy braking zones.
Back into 13 once again. Looking a little better now. Horvath gets himself some breathing room, but the damage has been done. It's a full 0.8 of a second up to Nicholson as they cross the line with a little more than 4 minutes to go.
And that clock ticking down, so that's probably going to be about 3 laps there for these leaders, and that means it is full go time for Caven Norris. Vincent Trepanier desperately holding on in that 4th place position, hoping to make a 3-for-3 happen, but it is looking less and less likely with each passing lap.
Never say never. It ain't over till it's over, and I think Trepanier is going to stick with it until he knows that there are no chances and they've crossed the finish line. All of them weaving to try to get across the track to open up turn 3 as they whoosh past the camera and head towards 4.
Such a great camera angle there from Dougie Beard. Absolutely remarkable. You really get a sense of the speed of these GT3 machines as now they work their way up through turn 5. I looks like Horvath is closing up a little bit on the back of Nathan Nicholson here, Joe.
He did, right there. Nicholson was very slow through the chicane, went a little deep into the corner, and now Horvath is sticking his nose in our camera.
Oh, this could get very, very interesting. They start to work their way now out of those sweepers down into turn 11. Oh, that's a wide run there from Norris, but it's a better run. He's going to have a look going down into turn 12. He's going to have to stick it around the outside. A little bit of a bobble under braking. The two bang doors.
Oh, I think the curb just sent Horvath out into his rival. Norris wants to keep going to the inside of him into 13, but isn't brave enough on the brakes. And now he starts dropping back. Is he damaged from that hit?
I don't know if it's damage from the hit or if it's just a little bit of loss of momentum there, even though it is in a lower speed corner. But the biggest thing to come out of that is Nathan Nicholson now has himself a 1.2 second advantage as they cross the line with 2 to go.
So Norris gave a shot at it, but it didn't quite pull off. So does he go for it again? Does he settle for this third place as we jump back to Claude Belval now? After he was our first to take the stop, he's gotten his way into 14th. That's a net gain of 4 spots from where he gridded, so not a bad day. I don't know how much of that was due to the pit stop strategy, though.
Well, one way or the other, anytime you're able to move up positions, that's a good thing. You can see there him having a little bit of a look on Paul Espina, but that not coming through. So we look out the back of Espina, and there is the driver cam in the corner of your screen.
Always love seeing the inputs that he'll show us here, especially looking to see that brake and throttle, just to see how easy he is on it. The best drivers always say you got to pretend there's an egg under there and you got to be oh so gentle. And yeah, just other than the brake going on, look at the throttle, just smooth as you like.
Smooth as silk for Paul Espina. He's one of the more consistent drivers here in this series and really giving us a view as to why, as he's able to hold off everybody behind him, Belval, Schmidt, and Breton, who are all trying to close in.
And something happened. Kwok Nin is slow. He's either got a error with his equipment. I think it's an error with his equipment because he's been kind of going and stopping. Yeah, this to me says his VR set might have something going wrong because it starts just around here out of turn 2. Watch the car just suddenly slow.
Yeah, it comes down there, and there you can see the slow wiggling it around. There has got to be a curse coming from GSRC because we have had several VR incidents happen here similar to Kwok's there. So Kwok just trying to get that fixed. Something going on in the car. Looks like he's maybe underway here now.
He's still got his headset on. And thankfully, there's no full course yellows here for this sort of thing. Meanwhile, as something happened with Desjardins. I'm not entirely sure. I see a lot of smoke over by him. I was about to say clock coming down to 0, and Nicholson is on the white flag lap.
Is indeed, as that is Horvath just trying to close in the best that he can, but I think he's going to need a monstrous sector 2 to be able to pull this off. But we've seen the ability to make passes down into 11 and 12 if needed.
Here's what I wonder too. Who put the right amount of fuel in? We saw drivers sputter to the line last week after pitting when they miscalculated, considering they probably were trying to save in the first part. Oh, he's well ahead of him here. So Nicholson not under threat until the last really decent spot to try and get an overtake done. Horvath is still hot on his heels. It'll take a little sputter or a little slip up, and he could snatch that one away despite Nathan leading the majority of these laps into turn 14. It seems like Nathan is clean, mean, and green as he works his way to the finish and wins here today in Hungary.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. Your top 4 all coming in. Nicholson, Horvath, Norris, and Trepanier. Jumping back to check out that battle with Belval, closing in on Espina to see if he can get anything done in these last couple of corners.
Yeah, it was 2.7 seconds from first to fourth at the line. It was that tight between the GT3 AMs for the victory. And around that last corner, Belval doesn't have it. Espina is going to be able to claim that 13th spot. I see Vargas and Swindells as what is going on with McLaughlin there? Is he just having some fun? I think he spun it across the line in celebration there.
Yeah, he was swerving to do the little celebratory moves, and the car just decided to step out a little bit on him, so he decided to carry it a little bit further and just drive backwards down the pit lane.
He actually didn't hit anything with it as well, so it's kind of a beautiful whip 180, and that is going to close out our race, but the show is not over. We're going to have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews coming your way in just a moment, so stick around.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Hungaroring. It looks like Nathan Nicholson was able to take the victory, but not by much. Half a second between himself and Devin Horvath at the end. Kevin Norris was third as Vincent Trepanier was just outside the podium. All four of those drivers had less than 3 seconds between them at the finish. That's how tight it was. Robbie Campbell, unfortunately, started to drop off at the end. Even though he was close for much of the race, he still gets a top 5 as Mignon is 6th and Langlois finishes P7. Then it's Tavitas finishing 8th today as Sepulveda takes 9th and Rady was 10th.
Coming home in 11th, it was Kyle Robertson, followed by Nick McLaughlin, the lone Ford out there. Paul Espina was 13th, and Claude Bevel was 14th. He was unable to get by that Ferrari in front of him. Alexander Breton was 15th, followed by Fabio Scardura and Chet Miller behind him. Richard Swindell is 18th, Lucio Vargas in 19th, and rounding out your top 20, it was Marc-André Desjardins.
Jorge Ordonez Venegas was 21st. Bowden finished 22nd, up from 30th on the grid. Nice job to him. Anderson Schmidt, P23, went a little backwards as Burmeister was 24th. Then it's Morse in P25, and Rhines was the last one on the lead lap in 26. Kwok Nin had some issues, didn't make it that last lap, and I guess counts as a DNF, but he was one lap down. Naon 6 laps down. Xanadakis 29th with Kwiatkowski in 30th, and from there it is all DNFs all the way to 34th place. I believe we've got our third place finisher ready to talk to us, Kevin Norris. And Kevin, congratulations on a podium. Certainly looked like you guys had some tense moments there up at the front, never really separated by more than a couple seconds, you four.
Yeah, it was very fun all along. With Trepanier too, the overtake was fun. It was pretty hard, but with the fuel save and everything was pretty intense.
Yeah, with that fuel saving, was that influenced by what you saw in the pro race last night? Because a couple drivers did manage to get to the end, even though nobody here did. Did you intend to try to go without a stop?
No, of course not. Too hard for me. It was my first race with the fuel save. I just practiced all alone, doing a couple of try with the fuel save, and I almost lost it a couple of times because of that. Because you have to keep the pressure on the gas pedals a little bit. Because when you release the speed, the car can kick, the back can kick. So almost lost it a couple of times.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looked like it was tough to try and clutch and take as much speed through those corners. But regardless, that pass on Trepanier was important in the championship. You made inroads on our points leader. That's got to be a positive note for you.
Yes, I don't know where it's gonna get me. I don't know if I get in front of Trepanier on this race, but yeah, it's a pretty nice battle.
Yeah, I don't think you'll overtake him in points, but you'll definitely close it down. Is there anybody you want to thank to help make this podium possible?
Yes, Alexandre Breton, Guillaume Lévesque, Advanced SimRacing, and of course you guys for the awesome stream.
Thank you very much. And that was Kevin Norris, our third place finisher, as I believe we've got our winner, Nathan Nicholson with DJ.
We do indeed, Nathan. A pretty commanding drive out there for you, but one that looked like you were never out of the woods completely. Talk me through that win.
Yeah, the other guys really put pressure on me. I thought, once I had the start, it was a nice, clean start. I had a little bit of a gap, and I was nice with that. I was just trying to keep putting in consistent laps, but they definitely did not let the pressure off of me.
Talk to me a little bit about managing that pressure, especially considering the pro race last night. We saw some guys being able to make a no-stopper work. Did that enter your brain at all, or was the pressure just too intense to really go for that?
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but the one stop never really was an option for us because I needed the pit stop to cool down the tires. I just had to keep going. I had my original plan. I had some doubts during the race about what other people were doing, but I just stuck with it and it worked.
Well, I'd say it certainly did. And as we turn our sights to the rest of the season, obviously you're the first driver outside of Vincent Trepanier to take the win here. Is this the start of a title challenge for you in the number 2?
I think for sure this is the start. I think it was a slow start. I had a little bit struggle getting used to this car, but now I'm just so in tune with this car. I think I can start taking it to these guys.
Well, fantastic, Nathan. We look forward to seeing it. Anybody you'd like to thank for this victory here today at the Hungaroring?
Yeah, I can't thank the guys at Delta Sport enough. I was struggling with this track at first, but they really helped me with setups and trying to get stuck to this track. I can't thank Move Up, Race Factory, Freem USA, United for Kids, Get Stuck, and Driven Texas enough for, supplying us with the gear that causes wins.
Well, there you go. Congratulations again, Nathan. That was your winner here today, Nathan Nicholson. Joe?
And that's going to close out our interviews. It doesn't look like we're going to get to talk to Horvath, who certainly had plenty of excitement himself. But we, of course, want to thank our sponsors before we go, which includes ASR. They design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. And RaceLab. It helps you to improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. As well as ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. And SIMMSA. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. And finally, NinjaTrader. Visit ninjatrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that you see listed on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Ryan, and Dougie. You can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. Check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. There's a link in the description below for that. While you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a moment. Next round, it's going to be Hockenheim and Road America on October 12th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.